Make it plain.
MIP.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Folks, it's those of us with the blue glasses. If you're watching on video, please do. Susie Madrak is back with us in this new year. We haven't talked to Susie since last year, since 2020. So happy to hear from her. Happy to have her back. We love and adore the wonderful Susie Madrak of SusieMadrak.com and crooksandliars.com. We are happy to have her back. Susie, welcome back and happy 2021, I guess. We were just talking about post-traumatic Trump syndrome. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think most of us have gone through this thing where you wake up in the morning and you're checking Twitter, like, to see what he's done now.
Yeah.
There's always this sword of Damocles hanging over your head, waiting for the next awful thing. And it is very hard to just shut that off.
Yeah, because it's almost too good to be true. You can't believe it. Did you watch the inauguration like a lot of us and say, yeah, when is somebody going to come from behind the curtain and say, psych, or what?
Yeah. Well, it was more like I kept expecting somebody to set off a bomb or something,
Yeah.
Because Trump has really hypnotized a bunch of people into thinking things that just aren't real.
As much as good as it is to have him off of social media, you're kind of nervous because sometimes you want to be able to watch what people are doing. So we don't really know what he's doing right now and how he's communicating to it.
Well, he's meeting with Kevin McCarthy at Mar-a-Lago today. What the hell is that all about?
And didn't Kevin McCarthy, like everyone else, originally decry the January 6th insurrection?
Yeah, but he got over it.
Yeah, that's what they do. They get over it.
He got over it. In fact, I had a piece this morning about this. AOC was on Chris Hayes last night, and she was talking about how McCarthy has gone from things like when they went after Steve King and they stripped him of his committee assignments. She says that the House Republican caucus answers to QAnon and answers to the white supremacists now. That there's not even the hint of the regular Republicans actually being in charge of anything.
As you can see, I'm sharing your latest pinned tweet. Let's change the official symbol of the GOP from an elephant to a scared pussy shitting itself. And that's what this is, isn't it? I mean, they have an opportunity to vanquish him utterly by disqualifying him to run for office again in impeachment. Why are they so afraid to do that?
I think some of it is just actual physical fear for their own lives. I mean, we've just seen what these guys did against cops, right? 2 cops who were beaten so badly they killed themselves. They were so traumatized. And then you have all these other, like one that's going to lose an eye. There's nothing like an American flag for beating the crap out of somebody, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they're just pussies, frankly. They're afraid they're not going to stand up for anything. And see, my feeling is that the politicians seem to have lost any desire or skill at persuading their followers. So what the Republicans are doing is they're just letting social media shape these people, and then they just react to them. They're not trying to shape them themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to do that. And clearly Joe Biden's trying to do this. He's trying to guide people into thinking in productive ways. The Republicans are not.
Not at all.
No.
So we don't have any reason to hope that they'll have the will to vote to, there goes my phone, that they'll have the will to vote to convict him and disqualify him.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe they'll do it.
Yeah. Well. But it's still worthwhile to have the trial and get everything on the record, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it will probably end up with us getting a majority in the elections. But you've seen what they're doing now, right? Like, it was really infuriating me how everybody was going on about how the Secretary of State in Georgia was such a noble and principled man and all this. You see what they're trying to do now, right? In Georgia?
Yeah.
Where you have to mail in twice pictures of your photo ID in order to be able to vote.
Never stops.
No, it never does. And I've been saying this for a long time, that the Republican Party is profoundly anti-democracy.
Mm-hmm.
That they do not believe that the majority should have a say unless they agree with them. That's the only time that voters, are entitled to get what they want, when they vote for Republicans.
Yeah. So what is going on with GameStop?
Oh, well, there's a subreddit on Reddit. I don't know how many of your followers are familiar with Reddit, but it's like an online message board. And depending on what topic you want to devote something to, it's called a subreddit. So there's a subreddit called Wall Street Bets. And the people on there, I can't tell if it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, but there's, GameStop, the place that has, the stores all over the country and strip malls and, regular malls. And they're not doing really well because they were a brick and mortar business where people walked in the door and bought video games. And they weren't even really making money, because the people on Reddit make fun of it all the time. They have like a very loose return policy where people could return things and basically end up not paying for anything. They could keep getting the new games and never, ever pay for any of them. So, so there was this. But what happened I think in December, I'm not sure, a guy named Ryan Cohen, who is the founder of Chewy.com, the pet food and, it's an online pet store. And he bought up, I think it was 9 million shares of GameStop. And so the people on Reddit are the kind of people who obsess endlessly over things like this. And they looked at this and they thought, okay, well, this guy bought 9 million shares. He got 3 seats on the board, and he announced his intentions to help them move from brick and mortar stores to an online business like Chewy. So that's, optimistic, right? That looks like they might possibly get it together and become a productive company again. Well, that's when the Wall Street hedge funds started shorting their stock. And I still don't really understand how this works, but they basically shorted 140% of their stock. There aren't that many shares existing, but that's how many they shorted. So, and for people who don't understand the stock market, a short is when a hedge fund bets against a firm making any money, and the likely result is frequently driving them out of business. So the people on Reddit that they would do what they call a short squeeze, where so many of them would buy small portions of stock and run up the price, that when the shorts came due, what happens is when you bet against it going, you have to cover that bet. Like, because if you lose that bet, you have to come up with a share of stock to pay for each bet. So the people on Reddit decided that they were going to do this. And then that way, when the hedge funds had to pay off their shorts, they were going to make money selling their stock back to the hedge funds. And plus, they were going to get to stick it to the hedge funds, who I think we will all agree are not saints. So what we've seen is a lot of people on like CSNBC and Fox Business, much hysteria. How can they do this? And this is so terrible. But Charles Payne on Fox Business last night was like, you know what? He said, we've all watched this hedge funds have done things like this to businesses, and we haven't said a word. And now that the little guy is getting a cut of the money, now everybody's hysterical. And he said that his kid made $50,000 on GameStop and bought a house. So anyway, so this is where it's at now.
Scaramucci called this the French Revolution, of finance. So regular people are undermining the shorting of the stock that the hedge funds
Right.
are pushing, right?
But what drove this whole thing is there's a couple of apps that have come out. The biggest one is called Robinhood. They're phone apps where you can trade small quantities of stock. So this is how most of these people were doing it. This was how they became familiar with it. They didn't have a broker. And what happened this morning, and actually I think it happened sometime yesterday, is Robinhood, the biggest one, cut off any purchases of GameStop. So
Is that a good thing, or?
I don't really know. It seems to me that it's the market protecting their own.
Yeah.
But there is also the possibility, and I've yet to make up my mind as to whether any of these people are telling the truth. It does seem like it's dragging a lot of the market down. Mm-hmm. That people are afraid that it will have a real domino effect on a lot of other things. I don't really know. And I do know that in the past, when there has been out of control trading, we have all been very happy to have them stop trading. So the short answer is I just don't know. I'm keeping an eye on it. I think that there are some big names behind the scenes moving some of this stuff. Somebody I know who bought some of the stock, I was saying, look, there just aren't any white hats when it comes to Wall Street. Don't assume that because somebody like, Mark Cuban or Elon Musk comes out and says what a great thing you're doing. Don't assume it's because he thinks it's such a great thing. It's because somehow, this guy's going to make a lot of money off what you're doing.
Is Steve Bannon in this?
That's a theory that people have. Apparently, he did something similar to this before. So I don't know. I'm going to be doing some more research into this, but this guy's theory that I was reading on Twitter, a guy named Dan Troy, was saying that Bannon didn't win with getting the people to go into the Capitol and start a revolution. Mm-hmm. And so it would seem likely that he would try and take down the economic system instead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I can see that. I can see Bannon doing something like that. I can see him moving things. And because he does have a long history of trying to manipulate people through Reddit and sites like that. So I don't know. They're not nice people.
Clearly not. This is very interesting. We ought to continue to take a close look at that. Folks, follow Susie on Twitter too, because she's been tweeting a lot about it, and we're gonna, with her help, probably learn more. We have not talked, Susie, since the election. How do you feel about what happened in your state? I see you had tweeted about the inability to flip the state Senate. There were people who voted for Biden, particularly in Erie County, but then reelected a Republican to the state Senate. What's that all about? We've
had Republicans in control for, I don't know, 10, 12 years now. But, they were basically Republicans, Main Street Republicans. And then I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago that the nut jobs took over. The people from the reddest parts of the state, the less populated, reddest parts of the state. And these guys are nuts. They're just nuts. And we know that at least some of them were collaborating with Donald Trump to try and do this, to try and take this down. We have a problem with gerrymandering, like most Republican-controlled states. I don't know. I mean, we're going to organize and we're going to do our best. We came close to taking over control this time, but we didn't do it. So we have to see what we can do. But these are nut jobs. As who was it? John Fetterman calls them. What was the name he had for them? It was pretty funny. Oh, the snake handlers. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good description of where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, I don't naturally come by the position that everybody who believes in God is an idiot, but some days it's hard not to.
I hear you. Yeah. Some days it is hard not to, for sure. So Trump is threatening to form his own party. That would actually be good for us.
I don't think he will.
Why not?
Because it would take too much money to actually do it. And I think whatever he does, he's going to do for money for himself because he's going to need it.
Probably no one else.
That's what I think.
Probably no one else willing to finance it for him, right? Who can? Who would?
Nobody would. So many people have had it with him. And he owes money everywhere. I was just reading, was it yesterday, that he was having trouble finding impeachment lawyers because everybody knows he doesn't pay his lawyers.
Right.
So
I wonder if he'll try, because he's not in the public eye as much. There's no regular means of communication for him. So he's probably losing his mind. I wonder if he'll try to testify on his own behalf at the impeachment.
That wouldn't surprise me, because this is a guy who thinks he knows better than everybody. Right. And if all these lawyers have told him that he doesn't really want to testify, that will make him more determined to do that.
Right.
That would make it unlike. I think a lot of people would just turn off the TV if he did that.
Right.
I would rather read a newspaper story about that than to actually watch it.
Watch his foolishness.
Yeah, because I think people have just been too traumatized by it.
Speaking of trauma, where were you and what were you doing on January 6th when all that was going on? How were you processing that?
Well, I can't say I didn't expect it, because I read the online message boards, like the Donald and Parler and stuff like that. And clearly they were planning something. Like it was just unbelievable to me that somehow they weren't prepared for this. I'm convinced that Trump put roadblocks all along the way to keep them from being prepared for it. Mm-hmm. These people really and truly believe that Trump was sent by God. And back to my original statement, where I begin to wonder about people who believe in God. And they think that they're patriots and we're doing the right thing. Well, that's true in most wars, and you end up getting tried and convicted of treason anyway. So it doesn't really matter what you felt or what you thought you were doing. You did something that was illegal. Not only that, when people use the word sedition, they're not really clear about what the definition is. And the definition is literally using violence or the threat of violence to stop the government from performing one of its functions or from creating a law. So whether you thought Donald Trump was God or not, you went in there and you decided that you would stop them from counting the votes or counting the Electoral College votes and validating them, and you would use the implied threat of violence to do so. You've committed sedition. It's not complicated. The law's on the books, and it's going to be prosecuted.
Yeah, right. For nothing, for something that wasn't even true, something that was a lie. They didn't run up there to protest not getting stimulus checks.
Right.
Which is a real thing. Right.
This is the problem with, the siloization of our media systems. And, and it's not even just the nefarious stuff like that. Like I've said for years that.
Again, what of our media systems? I won't say that word again.
Siloization. Everything's in a silo, and you don't know what's going on here or there. You only know what's going on here.
Right.
Even when I was a kid, when we had top 40 radio, we had all kinds of radio. It wasn't like segmented by market niche the way it is now. Mm-hmm. Like now, if you want to hear R&B, you have to go find an R&B station. If you want to hear classic rock, you have to find a classic rock station. There aren't any radio stations that just play everything anymore. Mm. And this was something, I went to a school that was half Black, and we were all listening to the same music. That was a bond between us. And we were also watching the same television shows, which now, how do you even begin to say, you say to somebody now, oh, have you watched so-and-so? Well, which streaming service was that on? Do you have to pay extra for it? There's so much stuff on TV now that, unless you have a trusted source who tells you to go and watch something, you're not going to watch it.
Good point. Good point.
So, so we're in these segments, but the media one, the news media one is so dangerous. And it's not helped by the attitude of people like the New York Times who do some good work and then they ruin it. Like today they had an editorial. Joe, we think you need to let up on the executive orders because that's no way to run a country. And I'm like, seriously? Do we not understand why he's using executive orders? Because if we don't have a solid majority, the Republicans aren't going to cooperate about anything. And that's that thing where both sides always both sides. So they have to come up with something to equivalent of Joe Biden's executive order with Trump's.
Yeah.
And they talked about Obama too. And I'm like, everybody knows why Obama used executive orders, because Mitch McConnell swore he wasn't going to let any of his legislation pass. So could we not just once identify the source of the problem, New York Times? So here we have the New York Times, who in some respects is a trusted source for certain types of news, but they're not a trusted source for anything where this both sides attitudes just sort of seeps into everything.
Yeah.
So if people really do want to know the news and they don't know, you have to have some degree of media literacy. If you haven't been reading mainstream media for a long time, you don't really understand what to take literally and what to ignore, right? Like when the New York Times writes that editorial, I know to ignore it after making fun of it. But people who were new to media would go, well, wait, you're saying we can't believe this. See, you can't trust the New York Times. It's fake news. And I don't know what to do. I think personally that people need to design some sort of entertainment system that educates people about civics and news. Like I was thinking, geez, wouldn't it be great if they did, Quizzo, everybody plays Quizzo in bars. It would be great if somebody came up with like a civics version where people had to answer questions about government. And I've often, many years ago, I think it was like, 15 years ago, I was talking to the late Jack Bogle, the guy who was the founder of Vanguard. And he was on the board of the Constitution Center. And I was talking to him then. And I said, look, he's saying, I don't understand why people are drawn to this right-wing stuff. I don't know what we can do about it. And I said, I think that the Constitution Center would be the logical group to do an online civics course. And you complete units. And then when you graduate, you mail them a beautiful certificate with their name on it. Because people really don't understand. They don't know how things work. They really think, for example, that Joe Biden now has the magic wand. And if there's something that he talked about doing and he doesn't do it, it's because he refused to wave the magic wand. And as we know, there are a lot of leftists who subscribe to this idea, or what Oliver Willis likes to call the Green Lantern theory of governing. He's got the magic ring, and he just refuses to use it. So I don't know. I can say I'm really glad that we got Trump out. I'm not incredibly optimistic for the ability of the American public to support him and give him what he needs to get stuff done.
Good point. We're impatient. Lastly, is it to expel a member of Congress? Is it simple majority or is it 2/3?
I haven't even looked at it yet. There's been so much going on. I think it's a majority, but I'm not positive.
So what are your thoughts about Marjorie?
Oh, she should be gone, definitely. She's a disgrace. She's an absolute disgrace. Kevin McCarthy isn't going to do anything about it.
Yeah. He's like I say, he's meeting with Trump.
And the other nut job, Lauren Boebert. And I just want to say, for those of your listeners who use Twitter, Lauren Boebert is at first glance a very attractive woman. But most of her attractiveness is she's got like great hair. She's got a cute little body and she's very sassy. But if you look really close at her face, you know who she looks like? She looks like Dustin Hoffman in Tootsie. Go look.
Oh my God.
So she starts spreading hateful content on Twitter. And I respond, and I always use Tootsie as a hashtag. You know, when I respond to her.
Yeah.
Because she does. She looks like Dustin Hoffman dressed up as a woman.
Wow. I looked it up. It's 2/3.
Oh, okay. 2/3.
So.
Yeah, don't think we're going to get there.
Yeah,
You never know.
Let's go.
I did see that, what's his face? Mitt Romney is trying to shame his fellow Republicans into voting for impeachment and to go after stuff like this. But come on, Mitt, you've been around long enough to know Republicans don't have any shame. Mitch doesn't have any shame when it suits his purposes.
You're right.
So I don't know. I think that people really have to learn how to pay attention and evaluate this stuff. And I don't know if people are up to it.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I hope so, but not hopeful.
Yeah, I agree. Check her out, folks, at Susie Madrak on Twitter and also at crooksandliars.com. We've missed you, Susie. Great to have you back. Great to talk.
Nice to be back, Mark.
Wonderful. Susie Madrak, everybody.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Right. Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, subscribe, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code FACE at checkout. That's harrys.com, code FACE. Enjoy!